I spent more money on this car than what the car is actually purchased for, and that's insane. What's up guys, welcome back to the channel. So I want to go ahead and break down how much I've spent on this Honda S2000. I had it for about 6 months or so. I just wanted something fun to drive. The ISF, I had it for years, but I wanted something manual transmission. I wanted something rear wheel drive, and I wanted something that's gonna be fun to take to the track or just cruise around in the streets on the weekends and whatnot, even on a daily basis. So I picked up the S2000. I really wanted a clean, stock, unmolested S2000. And if you look for one in Florida, they're either owned by an elderly person, low miles, overpriced, like up to like 25 to 30, pretty much MSRP. And you have ones that are like more affordable, but they've been destroyed, just bacon fendered up, rebuilt title, whatever the case may be. Like, it's just, there's a thin line or a fine line between finding the right one in between, and that price range ranges from $10,000 to around $15,000. I found this one in particularly, and I've been talking to the person back to back for 2 weeks, but I kept my options open. Everything else at the time was Silverstone, and they were like $2,000–$3,000 cheaper than what I paid for this one. But a lot of them felt kind of sketchy. A lot of them had photos that were like in a different state. Their phone numbers will be a different state if it was a Florida tag on the photo. Just a lot of sketch things going on. Like, that's just how it is everywhere, I think. But I think Florida is really known to have those issues. You know, I did some digging for like a month. I was torn between getting a Toyota Celica liftback, a 70s like Mustang looking classic car, because I had one before. When I started this channel, you could see it in the background in my old house in the garage. I had a Celica. I got rid of that, and I was looking for another one. So it was either between that and S2000 or just something totally out of the water. I don't know what I wanted. I just knew I wanted another car. Took a look at it on Facebook, and there was, you know, some flaws. Yellow headlights. It was completely stock, but it was dirty. And you know, I couldn't tell all the imperfections from the photo until I actually was there in person, and it turned out there was tons of dents on it. The car has been resprayed at one point because of orange peel. I checked all the VIN numbers, and there's actually one missing VIN number from the rear bumper. So that just tells me either it's been repainted before or it's been replaced with another white AP1 bumper. So just a backstory of what happened. I bought the car anyway, paid close to $10,000 for it. You know, then I had to register it and everything like that. I thought that was a fair price for what it was, considering it's a, you know, original AP1 S2000 with literally no problems whatsoever at the time. No accidents, fenders were not rolled. Obviously there were some things I found out later on when I went to go ahead and detail the car and clean it up and modify it and took it apart here and there, and I realized the car's been repainted. I don't know what happened, but maybe somebody might have etched it or something. There's dents on the car that I got a dent guy to remove, but he couldn't get it 100% perfect, which is fine. But I knew this car needed some love. It's 18 years old, so got the car a little under 10,000. Wasn't planning to mod it, but it's so tempting, you know what I mean? The car was completely stock. First thing I bought was an AP1 replica front lip because I couldn't find an original OEM one. And the replica ended up costing like 50 bucks, whereas the authentic was like 500 resale. So I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna get the replica one now, get it painted, and I threw it on. And for 100 bucks, it looked pretty damn good for the most part. Second thing I did wasn't really a mod, it was a headlight restoration. I went ahead and just buffed the whole entire headlights down. I made a video on it, so that really didn't cost me anything. So you could leave that at $0. The second thing I think I bought was the hardtop. I didn't really want to buy anything crazy, but like, the car was a convertible and it's prone to getting torn apart from use, and also the wind noise was killing me. If you guys ever owned a convertible, the wind noise is atrocious. And my buddy had a white hardtop for sale, so you know, I kind of pondered the idea of buying it, and eventually I ended up saving up money to pick it up from him, and I ended up paying $3,000 for the Mugen hardtop. Let alone right there, $3,000 in on just one piece, the Mugen hardtop. After that, I got bit by the bug, and I bought some wheels. I checked my tires on the AP1 stock wheels, and they were getting close to bald, and it was like rainy season still during the summer to fall. It was transitioning to fall. And I was like, you know what? I've always wanted Mugen wheels. I always wanted MF10s. I always wanted bronze, and that's what I wanted to get. I found on S2K Marketplace on Facebook, some guy in Washington was selling a set, and I was like, oh crap, man, you know, like speaking the devil, I was gonna buy some Volks instead, but I really wanted the Mugen wheels. So I was looking at it, I was like, you know, he's, you know, S2K specs, so I don't have to roll the fenders, and I paid $3,300 for those, which is insane. Most people won't even want to spend that much in the complete modification of their whole car, in the whole history of owning that car. But you know, peace of mind, and also just I've never owned that ever since I've owned Hondas when I was 16, and I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna pull the trigger. So I purchased them, and they look fantastic. So that's already $3,300 in on top of the $3,000 hardtop. So now I got two Mugen parts that equals over $6,000. Okay, that's insane. But I wanted to leave the car relatively stock. But honestly, at this point, with the AP1 front lip, with the Mugen wheels and Mugen hardtop, the car's already looking modified. So, you know, maybe a month passed, and I'm like, you know what? Every time I drive, you know, the car just thumps onto the road. I'm like, what the hell is that? Like, I keep hearing it from the back suspension. I keep, oh, you know what? Maybe my shocks are blown. It's an old car, 18 years old. It's an old car. It might need to be replaced. So I'm looking along for coilovers. You know, my buddy was selling some. He had HKS coilovers that he was gonna put on his car, the Hypermax, and I wanted them so bad, but he was swapping out his Fortune Autos on his car, and he wanted to sell me that instead. But I just didn't want Fortune Autos. Like Fortune Auto, like nothing wrong with Fortune Autos, nothing wrong with function and form, nothing wrong with BC, but they're all kind of manufactured and built the same way. They work, they're reliable, they're great, but I think they're just not good for daily driven comfort and all that. So I was like, you know what? Let's go and exceed beyond my budget, and let's look at something better. And I was looking at Olin coilovers and did some research. Everyone that owned S2000s that had Olin coilovers always said it was the best coils to get. Very comfortable, very smooth, but also a little bit stiff for those, you know, tight cornerings and stuff, the adjustables, like pretty much everything. But there's something dynamic about the Olin coilovers that stands up above Fortune Auto, above Function Form BC. And I mean, HKS at the time was fantastic, but it's a little old technology now, if that makes sense. So, you know, forget it. I went on Rockstar Garage on Instagram actually, and they were having a promotion from months ago. They're like, oh, you know, we have 2 sets of Olins left. And I was like, oh crap, man, they probably don't have it anymore. So I just messaged them. I was like, hey, when are you guys getting a shipment of Olin coilovers for S2000s? And they're like, oh, we have one more set here. You know, we'll sell it to you for $1,850 shipped. And I'm like, oh, $1,850. If I want the comfort, I have to pay to play, you know. And I've already went all out on the MF10s, and I already went all out on the Mugen hardtop. Why not? So I placed an order on that. So there we go, $1,850 on top of the $6,300, $6,400 that I have invested into the car. So, and I'll put the math, the numbers here. I can't think about it on top of my head. So moving along, as I was waiting for those coilovers, something crazy happened. I had an offer from someone that was in Tampa, which is, you know, the west coast of Florida. He bought an S2000 that was supercharged, and he was in the process of parting it out because he wanted to drive it stock. So he was selling or trading a Muse bumper, and to me, I thought it was authentic. I thought, oh, this was it. This guy is gonna give me the hell of a deal of the century. Authentic Muse bumper for an OEM AP1 bumper. So I picked up an AP1 bumper from my buddy. I got it painted, and I drove all the way to Tampa to trade him, right? The paint matched on his car perfect. It fit perfect, 100%. I got the Muse bumper, and I was inspecting it, and I was like, you know, something's not right about this bumper. I mean, everything is there, but there's some things aren't there or missing. So I went ahead and put I drove back home. I went to install the bumper. I also made a video on that. I installed the bumper, and turns out it fits near 100%, like 100%. I thought this thing was legit. I'm like, okay, you know, maybe I'm just talking smack. But then goes to show there's actually a big gap on the corner of the headlight, and that kind of threw it all off. I knew that gap wasn't like that from a Muse, because a Muse wouldn't do that, you know what I mean? The bumper alone costs like $1,200-$1,300, so I was like, whatever. Replica bumper, paid little to nothing for it. After all was done, I tracked the car I actually purchased recall receipts from my buddy. He was selling them off his build. He had RSX that he was building the engine for, and he bought one seat, one Recaro pole position seat, and he only sat in it like twice. And this was like a few years ago. So he mentioned it to me, and I'm like, hey, you want to sell it? And I was like, you know, he's like, oh, maybe if the price is right. You know, I spent like $1,100, and I was like, oh shoot, so that means you'll sell for $600, right? And he laughed it off. I laughed it off. I walked away, and you know, later that day he came to me. He's like, hey, if you want to spend $600, I'll sell it to you for $600. So he did. So I was like, crap, I'm not gonna sleep on that. Literally brand new seat goes for $1,100. So I was like, shoot, I picked it up. $600 added to the list again, to the modifications. And I bought Buddy Club rails because my buddy had Buddy Club rails, and you know, that cost me another $120. So they're okay. If I can go back and do it again, I'll probably do Recaros or something. But going on the list, I tracked the car was fine, fantastic, everything was is fun, and then I'm like, you know what? I think I need BBK. So that's what I did. I didn't buy the BBKs, actually. I borrowed them from my buddy Richard. He has another set that he bought, and he was trying to get rid of these. I told him, hey, let me clean them up real quick, let me resurface them, and let me put them on the car and test fit them. I did all that. I cleaned them up, restored them. They look fantastic. They look brand new pretty much, because they were pretty beat before. Brand new is like $5 grand. So resale wise isn't that much because people don't want to spend that money. Also, these BBKs are kind of outdated compared to like the newer stuff like Project Move, Stop Tex, Brembo. They make some crazy stuff now that pretty much outperforms these in my opinion. But these are eye candy, JDM eye candy, which I freaking love. So right now I'm borrowing them until I decide if I want to buy them or not, and you know, I do like them, so we'll see how that goes. Of course, to add on to the BBK look, to add on to the track look with the coilovers and the performance tires and wheels, I went ahead and bought a Voltex spoiler. So my buddy was actually parting out his Voltex themed S2K, and he's going a different route. So he's like, yo, you want to buy anything on the car? And I'm like, yo, you know, like how much? But turns out all the Voltex stuff is really expensive. And if you were into S2000s and you look at Voltex pricing, it's insane. They just released the wide body kit for like 25K. It's insane. So I was like, you know, I might just buy the wing, because I had the wing before on my TSX. And that's what we did. I went there, checked it out, see how gigantic this wing is, and you can see right there in the back of this video, and bought it, went to his house, test fitted it, threw it on the car, and it's never taken off the trunk since. And you know, a lot of people think it's a ricer thing to do, but I think it's functional. The car is way more planted. It doesn't feel like it's swaying anymore when I take corners. You know, I drive to work every day, and I live right next to this little curvy, apexy, you know, road, and it just feels so fantastic. So I'm definitely gonna test it on the track next month in February to see how well it performs, because I've driven it without the wing the first time I took it to the track, and now I gotta drive with the wing to see if it actually makes a big difference, you know, at the road course. This is what you get for buying authentic parts. You're gonna spend mad money, but it's gonna look fantastic. You're gonna get a lot of respect from a lot of builders and car enthusiasts out there. And you know, resale value, they hold. If I really wanted to, I could probably make close to 90 to 95% of what I paid for each individual part on the car. You know, when there's a seller for authentic parts, there's going to be a buyer for authentic parts. So I'm trying to keep everything legit. The bumper is replica, but I want to do something a little bit more aggressive and do an authentic bumper as well. You know, I was pricing out authentic amused bumpers and stuff, but it seems to be a little too pricey right now. I think it's going to keep going up. But yeah, that's the list. I spent more money on this car than what the car is actually purchased for. And that's insane. So once again, guys, please like the video, subscribe if you're a new time viewer, and leave a comment about how much money you spent on your own personal car and if it was all worth it in the end. To me, it was totally worth it. The car looks fantastic and it drives amazing. Like, stuff like that goes unseen, but it all boils down to how it feels when you drive the car, and that's what really matters. Stay tuned for the next video when I talk about how much I spent on my Lexus ISF. That's gonna be crazy.